Hey guys, welcome to the second week of online economics and personal finance. As I shared with you guys last week, we're going to work on this planning for higher education activity this week. So I wanted to walk you guys through everything that we're doing with this. So the good news with this is that the first couple steps, really you've done a lot of this work already. 2 weeks ago, I suppose at this point, maybe even 3 weeks ago. Gosh, you lose track of time so quickly. But the last week we were in school together. So we're starting off by looking at your future career. So if you guys remember, a couple weeks ago, again, last week we were in school, you guys did the ONET interest profiler in class, and it came up with a list of different careers and occupations that would be aligned with your interests. And then based on what you found in there, you picked one job and researched it on the Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook. So you would have then completed the little organizer, the activity that went along with that. So even if you didn't quite finish that, you can still use the BLS Occupational Outlook Handbook, and you can find that by just Googling OOH BLS. So if you want to see what that looks like, BLS OOH, and the first option that will come up here is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. So we click on that. And from here, you just search in the handbook for whatever profession that you're interested in. So for example, if your interested profession would be like architecture, architecture and hit search, and it will give us results related to architecture, engineering, so on and so forth. If you're, again, this is one of the interest inventory pieces that came up for you. So the one example I'm going to do, not very creative, is actually my job as a career and technical education teacher, and specifically a business teacher, and we'll see where that comes into play here in a little bit. So when we start this assignment, we're going to start with the career selection. So in this first box, I'm just going to put the name of the career that I researched, career technical education teacher, and I might go ahead and change the font color on this just to make it stand out a little bit for us. So I'll choose something kind of dark. Let's pick a red to make that work. And then a short explanation of why you chose that career. So you might put something in here like, I have an interest working with students, and I enjoy learning about things in the area of business and information technology, which is the specific career and technical area I teach in. Obviously, there are many career and technical education areas, from things like automotive, body, auto mechanic. Welding is also at Salem, culinary arts, early childhood education, marketing, all of these things all fall under the domain of career and technical education. So that's the first section. So again, very, very similar to what we did with that last week before we went to online school. Step two is the education and training that you need. So right here, we're going to talk about the basic education and training needed to enter a career. And for many careers, it's more than just one thing. It's not just you go to school and that's it. So we're going to use career and technical education as our example with that. And we're going to click specifically on the how to become one tab here on the Bureau of Labor Education Statistics. And you see there's really three things that a career and technical education teacher needs is one, the formal schooling, the education. So I'm going to go ahead and as I read through this, all states require prospective career and technical education teachers in public schools to complete a period of field work called student teaching, in which they work with a mentor and get experience teaching students in the classroom. And that's typically at a bachelor's degree at a minimum. So my first requirement that's going to go in here is going to be a bachelor's degree in my field of teaching, and a student teaching experience. I spelled teaching, so let me fix that. So that's the first thing that we need. The second thing that we see on here that we'll need is work experience or in a related occupation. So what have you done in that specific field? So see here, they give examples of like automotive mechanics, chefs, nurses. For me, I worked as a software developer before this, but I'm just going to put work experience in business and information technology. And then the third thing that they're looking for is a license. So with teaching, we need to have a teaching license. So I'm going to just put on here teaching license. So those are the three things that I need to have education-wise to be able to do this. Again, I'm going to go ahead and change my color here so that that stands out as different, even though it's in a different box. And then the next piece, we're looking at sources of education and training. So I know from what I just put here that I need to have a bachelor's degree, so I need to go to college. So I am going to, in here, look for colleges for, put this way, colleges with education majors. I'm going to search on that. And with this, this is kind of nice actually. Google gives me its own kind of search engine to do this with. So I can edit this in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to start off by looking at the program, and I'm going to say I need to have at least a bachelor. So I'm going to click that. And I know business is an area that I need, and computer and information science is related to this, and certainly education are all things related to what I need. There's no information technology here. And I'm going to go over here to state, and I'm going to select just Virginia because I want to do my program in Virginia to have the in-state program. And then that's really it. So I click off of that, and I should have some results here that I can pick from to use. And so this is actually giving us some good information as well. So those of you guys that are going to have to do the college search in the future, there's some interesting stuff that you can learn from what we're seeing here. And the first thing, I'll go up here to the top to possibly Liberty. You see the average cost after financial aid, graduation rate, and acceptance rate. So really what you're looking for here, graduation rate, when that's low, that means students are not finishing their degree programs at the school for whatever reason. They might be transferring to another school, or they might just be leaving school and going to work. So that we don't really know everything about that. And then acceptance rate, this says if you apply there, how many students that apply to the school get accepted. So there's certain things that we can infer from this, but we can't know for sure. So some little things here, we look at somebody like VCU, they have a pretty high acceptance rate and a better than middle of the road graduation rate. So that means you have a pretty good chance of getting in. You probably are going to do the research to know that what your GPA and SAT scores and all those things are match what they have. And you have, about 2/3 of the chance of finishing that in, 5 years or so. And you'll see some schools like University of Richmond, if we had UVA and William & Mary on here, which we don't for some reason, those are all schools that tend to have much lower acceptance rates and much higher graduation rates. Which really means that a lot of people want to go there, but they're going to be selective. So they're going to take the top of the top students that they would like, and those students are by and large really successful, which makes a lot of sense because when you have the top of the top students, you anticipate them being very successful. And you have some other schools where that kind of gets flipped a little bit. And I'm trying to see if we have any good examples here. A school like Ferrum, pretty high acceptance rate, not a great graduation rate. Very high acceptance at Bluefield, kind of in a place that a lot of people aren't particularly interested in living if you don't already live out there. So there's a lot of factors to look at here. But for what we're doing right now, we're not going to get a decision here that you're going to have to stick with. We're just using it as an example. So I'm going to look through this list. I'm going to pick 3 places that I might be interested in. So it looks like Virginia Commonwealth has this combination of education and business that I'd like to have. So I'm going to put Virginia Commonwealth, and I forgot the last I. So I'm going to fix that. Virginia Commonwealth University. And go back to my list here, and we'll go ahead and do George Mason. I like the state schools, so I tend to gravitate towards those. Then Old Dominion University was right after that. And if you look at the three that I picked, Norfolk, Fairfax, and Richmond all tend to be more urban areas. So, I'm kind of aligning my selections with urban areas. If I wanted to do more rural, I could do something like a Radford as a state school in a rural area. Certainly Virginia Tech, even though it didn't come up on this list for some reason. I'm not sure why it didn't. We have some HBCUs down here, Virginia State, Hampton. I used to live in Hampton right by the school. Very, very fantastic school there. Yeah, so you have choices here. And again, there's a few that didn't show up for some reason. I'm not sure why, like William and Mary and UVA and Virginia Tech and JMU didn't show up. Those are all schools that have these programs as well. You could look back and figure that out if you know already that you have an interest in those. Don't limit it just based on what you found on this one search. You can certainly dig a little deeper and search a little more to know that other programs do exist other places. This is just, again, kind of a walkthrough of what you might find when you're doing this for the first time. So I'm going to put those three programs here for the bachelor's degree. And I'm actually going to put a little note next to it, bachelor's in business and education. We'll note it's all three of them. Same thing. Okay. The next piece here, step number 3, and there's only 4 steps, so we're almost there. For step number 3, we want to select one of those 3. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Old Dominion University. That's in Norfolk, very close to where I grew up in Virginia Beach, so I know a little bit about that. So Old Dominion University is going to be my choice. And then we want to figure out how much it costs to go to Old Dominion. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my Google search here. And this time I'm going to put in Old Dominion University tuition calculator and see what I can come up with here. All right, and so ODU has a cost calculator built into their stuff already. And so this is actually kind of nice with this one. I don't have to do a whole lot of work because they're going to figure it out for me. Other schools, you might have to do a little bit more work. But undergraduate, in-state, going to school on campus in Norfolk, and I'm going to assume I'm going to be a full-time student all of my semesters. So 15 is a full-time undergraduate student. I think most schools 12 is, but 15 is kind of the normal number of credits you would take. That's like 5 full classes. And I would need to live on campus somewhere, right? So I want you just to notice for a second what happens as we increase from just being a student who goes to classes and doesn't live on campus, where my cost is going to be about $11,000. As soon as I put on here where I want to live, and I'll kind of look down the list here and pick something that doesn't look too crazy. Maybe University Village, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. I'm going to need to eat. So you see here, it says the all access meal is required for all first year students. So making sure you don't go hungry. So if I live in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath place, which tends to be the cheapest, if I do 1 bed, 1 bath, it goes up quite a bit. So I'll do the cheap one here. You see my $11,000 tuition is now jumped to over $25,000 per year. So I can, play around with some of these different things to figure out maybe I can find a cheaper place to live. So these 2 places are only 23 instead of 25 that we had the last one at. 23 and 23. We might only be able to get down to in the 23s here. So we'll do that. We'll pick Whitehurst Hall, 23106. And then it includes everything on here for our tuition, for our housing, for our meals, some different student fees that come into play that we have to pay each year. So ultimately we get this number of $23,158. So what I'm going to put in my document over here is $23,158 each year. And that's going to be at 4 years that we're doing this, for a total of, and we got to do a little bit of math. So 23,158 times 4 is going to give us 92,632. So I'm going to drop that information in here. And I'm going to go ahead and make that bold, and then I'm going to change all this text again to a different color. And so that gives me an idea of how much it's going to cost me to pursue my career. Now, if you're doing something different, if we scroll back up here to number 2 for a second, let's say your education and training it tends to be more work-based. Maybe you're doing something like an aircraft mechanic where you want to go into the military and get on-the-job training there. Your basic education training here is probably going to look a lot different, and then your 3 sources are going to look a lot different too. So with the exception of the military, though, where they train you and pay you at the same time, the vast majority of the post-secondary education that we need is going to require us to go somewhere to get that education and training. So please be sure, even if your plan is to go in the military and get that free training while you work, be sure to pick something that would kind of not do that, right? So we want to figure out what it would cost to be a trained airplane mechanic without having gone into the military. So what kind of programs exist for that, and the cost of those programs. So don't take the easy way out and just say, oh, it's going to be free in the military. Most of the time we're not going to have that option. But again, if your plans to go in the military, that's great. That's a wonderful career pathway to have, especially if you want to do something that the military trained you so well in, like being an airplane mechanic. All right, so step number 4, this is paying for this. On this part, you're giving me your best guess, right, as to what ways you might pay for your education and training. And this actually ties in to the other assignment that we're doing this week, which is related to paying for higher education. So I've given you guys this organizer right here to help you with that. And there's really 4 main ways that we can go about paying for things. One is you just save up, right? So like if you have some money that you're saving away, or your parents are saving away for you to go get an education, that is one, again, just wonderful way that you can go about paying for paying for your education. So saving for the future, one piece we might put on here, and let's be a little ambitious, right? Let's say we might think we can save about $15,000 for our future education here. So I'm going to go back and look at some other things on here. Other ways that you can pay, you can get money that you don't have to pay back through things like scholarships and grants and work study programs. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put those things on here too. Scholarships, grants, and work study programs. And make that 2 words. I'm going to say this is probably going to hopefully be the bulk of it, right? If I feel like I can get about $5,000 a year, that's $20,000 in work study. Maybe make another, chunk of money on that. So let's be super ambitious here, right? And say we can make $50,000 over 4 years. And again, we don't know this yet. We're just rough estimating numbers, and that's okay. That is totally okay. That you can go about that process. So we've got about 65,000 of our 92. So that means we've got about 30,000 left. So we want to keep looking here at our options. So after these things that are money that we don't have to pay back, kind of the free money, if you will, the next piece is low cost financial aid. So this is financial aid. These are loans that are provided typically through the federal government or through your school. And they're much better than going to the bank and getting a loan. And the bank and getting the loan is the last one, right? But the reason why you want to go through these low cost financial aids is one, they don't let you, excuse me, let me try that again, is one, they let you defer payment until you finish school. So with a typical loan, as soon as you take the loan, you have to start paying it back right away. But with these loans, you actually get to wait until your school is finished before you have to start paying it back. So that is a really beneficial piece for you here. And they tend to be much lower interest rates than what you're going to pay if you go to a bank. And they tend to also going to be extended out over longer periods of time, which means that you're actually paying less each month. Now you're going to pay longer. So that does impact how much interest you pay by paying longer, which we learned about before. But it tends to be more manageable for folks. If you have to go through these consumer loans, and again, we learned about this through banks, these tend to be a lot more stringent in terms of how much you're trying to pay back and how long it takes you to pay it all back. So these tend to be the least effective ways to go about getting a loan. And so one of the things you want to know about getting these loans is you have to fill out this paperwork called the FAFSA, and it's actually all electronic now. You don't have to do it on paper. But by filling out the FAFSA, it allows you to go ahead and be eligible, hopefully, to get these loans and to get hopefully some scholarships and grants as well. So the FAFSA is really the key. If you're looking to pay for your higher education, filling out FAFSA is really step number one that everybody should do to figure that out. And we'll actually address FAFSA specifically more next week in class, but this week you'll get a little bit of an intro to it through this document, which you're going to use, and this is assignment number 2 this week. You're going to use that notes document to complete this graphic organizer on different ways that you can get money to pay for your higher education. So you have both of these things that you're doing. So I'm going to come back to our assignment here and finish this up. And I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to get student loans as the final way to get the money that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and figure this out. It's 65, so that's 25, 27. It's about $28,000 left. Highlight that, make it red, and that's it. So that's the assignment. So again, this is just an example of how to do it. I don't expect probably any of you to do being a career and technical education teacher. I know some of you do have an interest in being a teacher, so you're going to have some similarities here. I would imagine you're going to have some different schools though from what I picked. Yeah, I know, again, a bunch of you guys have stuff that doesn't require any college whatsoever, but it's going to require you to get some kind of training after you finish school, because this is just the nature of the jobs that we have, whether you want to be an HVAC technician, a plumber, electrician, auto mechanic, work on, selling Teslas, whatever it might be. You're gonna have to get some training after you finish high school. So let's figure out how much that's going to cost, and let's start thinking about ways that we're going to pay for that as we move forward. So that's what we got going on this week. Again, if you have questions about this, jump in on the Zoom session, send me a message and remind, send me an email, whatever you need to do to get in touch, and we'll get you unstuck and keep you going. So I hope that helps, and I wish you guys the best of luck. Talk to you soon. Bye.